Emperor Sheev Palpatine, also known in his Sith persona as Darth Sidious to history, was unquestionably one of the most powerful Sith Lords to ever force torment and death onto the Star Wars galaxy. He was a Sith unlike any before him, encapsulating and concluding the Rule of Two era and the Baneite era of Sith Lords descended from Darth Bane, taking on 3 apprentices in his lifetime as the galactic ruler and dominator of the galaxy. Palpatine had a midichlorian count that surpassed even Grandmaster Yoda's, one of the most powerful avatars of the light and Jedi to ever live. Darth Sidious was most prominent during the Galactic Empire era of Star Wars. However, if you have paid attention with the lore of the sequel trilogy, and the Sith lore and dark side adepts that have studied and recorded their analogues and monologues in Sith scrolls, tomes, and artifacts, you will know that in the 9th movie and last installment in the Skywalker saga, Darth Sidious returning as a phantom emperor, a shadow of what he once was, but his power would grow to be more exceptional than possibly even his Legends continuity version. Join us today, acolytes of the Force, and slaves of the dark side, and students of the light, as we delve in to the story of Darth Sidious and everything he did during the events of the final installment of the legendary Skywalker saga, and all his actions during his time on Exegol, and all he did when conducting the horrifying Sith ritual and consuming Ren and Kylo Ren's Force dyad. Are you ready, acolytes? Let's begin. I would just like to note before we begin that a lot of the starships that have docked in at our archives to study the in-depth knowledge of the Sith, Jedi, and other beings in the galaxy have yet to subscribe or hit the like button. This is very disproving, and I command you, using the Force, to hit the subscribe button and completely annihilate it with your mastery of the dark and light side. Thank you, acolytes, and let's delve into everything Palpatine did during the events of the Rise of Skywalker. In the year 35 ABY, 35 years after the events of A New Hope, and the first Death Star was destroyed by Luke Skywalker using an ion torpedo, a mysterious and cryptic audio broadcast using the voice of the long-thought-to-be-dead Emperor Sheev Palpatine, the public identity of Darth Sidious to the rest of the galaxy, who is still thought to be dead by the galaxy at large, minus possibly only Grandmaster Luke Skywalker, who had recently been killed the year prior by Kylo Ren after he utilized Force projection. The other beings that knew of Palpatine's existence was likely Snoke, but he had also been killed the year prior by his Padawan Ben Solo, otherwise known in his dark side persona as Kylo Ren, acting as the final test for Kylo Ren to inherit the legacy of the Sith. His message was released to the galaxy, threatening revenge. Upon this, the newly christened Supreme Leader Kylo Ren began a tireless and restless search for the broadcast source, deeming it a challenge to his rule and new unfathomable power. After acquiring a Sith Wayfinder from the dark side steeped world of Mustafar in his grandfather Darth Vader's ancient and now ruined castle that eventually led him to Exegol in the unknown regions, Ren entered the Sith Citadel, an ancient construction laid as one of the first bastions of the dark side of the Force and the Sith, and confronted the separate Emperor, who now looked as a phantom and a zombified husk of his former glory, who admitted that he had created Snoke and impersonated Vader.
The work of generations is complete. The great error is corrected. The day of victory is at hand. The day of revenge. The day of the Sith.
Such words were uttered by Emperor Sheev Palpatine upon Kylo Ren's arrival at Exegol, an ancient Sith Holy World steeped in the dark side of the Force. When the newly christened Supreme Leader Kylo Ren threaten the decaying Emperor's body and clone with his untimely death, the Dark Lord merely stated not that he could give Kylo Ren everything and a new empire. Despite this, Sidious's calm demeanour never broke or wavered, despite the fact that Kylo Ren had his crackling crimson blade pointed at Emperor Sheev Palpatine's resurrected form, pointed straight at his head. This seemed not to worry or severely induce tremendous levels of fear onto the Phantom Emperor. When the Supreme Leader threatened the decaying Emperor, he responded saying that the dark side of the Force was a pathway to many abilities that some considered to be unnatural, quoting the lines he had stated in his Chancellor attire to his Padawan, Darth Vader, for many years before, and upon Kylo Ren stating that he would kill the Emperor like he killed Snoke, he revealed that he had made Snoke through the use of science and strand-cast cloning operations, and saying that he had already died before. Sidious then revealed his formation of the Final Order, the largest fleet that the galaxy had ever known, composed of more than 250 Zeiston-class Star Destroyers, with a miniaturized Death Star cannon embedded into their underbelly, with the ability and raw power to blast open an entire planet. A Sith armada composed of numerous TIE daggers and an army of loyal Sith troopers that, while they did not pose any Force sensitivity or possess any dark side traits, Palpatine noted that due to their brutality on the battlefield, it could be noted that they were Force sensitive to viewers. The purpose of this new military was to restore the ultimate Sith rule across the galaxy in the form of a new Sith Empire, which Sidious offered kindly to Kylo Ren, along with the title of Emperor, but only if he killed the Jedi apprentice Rey. To Ren's surprise and utter bewilderment, Sidious then revealed that he was Rey's grandfather, and her father was created through the use of strand-cast cloning and possessed no connection to the Force. Ren would later share this revelation he had had with Rey, believing the truth of her heritage would turn her to the seductive use of the dark side, rather than killing her. Ren hoped that Rey would aid him in the usurpation of her grandfather Palpatine, allowing the pair to rule the galaxy as Emperor and Empress and dark side acolytes, subjecting it to the rule of the Final Order, where all worlds would either adhere to the orders of the Emperor and Empress or die. Rey's continued survival caused Sidious to suspect treachery from Ren, and as such, he threatened to turn the Sith fleet against the Supreme Leader unless he killed her. Having been warned, Kylo went to the Endor system on Kefbir, where he dueled Rey on the remains of the second Death Star in the sea moon of Kefbir, until Rey fatally wounded him. However, upon sensing the death through the Force, and feeling a tremor through the very Force itself of Leia Organa Skywalker Solo at Agen Kloss, the current serving Resistance headquarters, Rey saved Kylo Ren's life using Force healing and left him behind to mourn his mother momentarily. Ben would finally turn back to the side of the light after reflecting on Rey's act of compassion and his parents' sacrifice. Having felt Organa's passing, Sidious cursed the former Princess of Alderaan for finally, one last time, disrupting his plans by costing him Kylo Ren's loyalty and his reduction into the light side of the Force. After Ren renounced the dark side, Sidious gave command of the Final Order entirely to Allegiant General Enric Pride, one of the highest ranking officers in the First Order, and a being who had served Darth Sidious in the old Galactic Empire's reign. Still, the Emperor of the Phantom remained confident that victory was at hand, and asserted that Anakin Skywalker's daughter had died in vain. Sidious then communicated via a hologram with Allegiant General Enric Pride, who had previously served him during the event known as the Galactic Civil War, the massively long conflict that was drawn out between the two opposing factions of the Galactic Empire and the Rebel Alliance. With the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren gone, and one of Palpatine's most valuable assets turned back to the light, the First Order's command defaulted to Pride, whose allegiance to Sidious was secured like iron. officially combining the First Order's military might with those of the Sith Eternal's final order. Realizing that the time had come to make his ultimate return and impose his dark side will on the galaxy again, Sidious commanded Pride to send one of his Star Destroyers, named the Derafin, to Kijimi, a planet that the Resistance in Poe Dameron, Rey, Finn, and C-3PO had visited prior in the movie, and destroy it in order to send a clear message to the Resistance that victory was hopeless. While initially intending to live out the rest of her days in exile, like Luke Skywalker, due to the fear of becoming a Sith herself upon meeting her grandfather, Rey was eventually convinced to detest not doing so by the Force Spirit and Phantom of Luke Skywalker himself, who had returned as a Force ghost and spectre of blue energy, who encouraged her not to let her bloodline define her legacy and actions, by gifting her with the training lightsaber which had once belonged to Leia Organa. After eventually coming to terms with her past, Rey travelled to the Sith world of Exegol alone to face Sidious, transmitting the route coordinates to the Resistance to follow her and defeat the Final Order once and for all. Upon finding her grandfather, who was now a withered husk, surrounded by a Sith Eternal cultist in the throne room, Rey was welcomed by Sidious, who rejected the notion that he wanted her dead, and rather brought him here to succeed him as Empress Palpatine, the supreme and newly Christian ruler of the galaxy. Sidious, a phantom husk that now attempted to goad his granddaughter Rey into striking him down, much like he had done to the Jedi Knight Luke Skywalker 31 years prior, remarking that while Skywalker had his father Darth Vader to save him that day, he was the only family that she had. In actuality, Sidious wished for Rey to strike him down in order to initiate a Sith ritual that would transfer his spirit from the decaying clone body into the youthful Rey's. Sidious, in Legends, also used this ritual, known as Essence Transfer. It was most notably used by him, Darth Vitiate, one of the most powerful Sith Lords of all time, and Darth Endedu, the pioneer of this ability. Essence Transfer required a being strong in the dark side of the Force to take their essence away from their physical form, which, upon releasing it, would instantly explode and burn. And regarding if their will was stronger than the being they intended to take over, they would see them as a suitable host, and encase their dark side power within that vessel. Vitiate most notably did this with Valkorion, a Zakulian warrior, in order to seize control of the Eternal Empire, and Darth Sidious most notably did this with multiple clone bodies he had established around the galaxy before his fall at the Battle of Endor. In an attempt to get Rey's hatred of him augment and increase her anger, Sidious replied to Rey that by transmitting the route to Exegol to her friends and soldiers in the Resistance, she had inadvertently led the Resistance forces into a trap that would see all of them wiped out by the numerous and nigh unstoppable Sith Eternal forces. However, a glimpse of hope for Rey came when the redeemed Ben Solo, no longer Kylo Ren, arrived on Exegol to help her in a fight against Darth Sidious, the last Sith Lord in the galaxy. Unknown to Sidious, his granddaughter had been stalling for time upon feeling that Solo had finally arrived on Exegol, precluding from her succumbing to her temptations of absolute power and the dark side of the Force's limitless seduction. Feigning that she was going to strike him down with the Skywalker lightsaber, Rey transferred the lightsaber to Solo through their Force bond and dyad, allowing Solo to promptly destroy the Knights of Ren, while Rey used the lightsaber of her master, Leia Organa, to defend herself against the Emperor's sovereign protectors, his elite loyal guard.
Let your death be the final word in the story of rebellion.
Astonished that his granddaughter didn't kill him like he had gleefully anticipated, due to his acknowledgements and desire to complete the essence transfer ritual, as he had done many times in Star Wars Legends, Sidious realized with horror the mistake in allowing Rey and Solo to come together. Their Force bond, or otherwise known in ancient texts and scrolls as a Force dyad, had been forged in the fire of mutual searching, shared grief, rage, and hatred for the beings that had wronged them. But what Sidious hadn't anticipated was that it almost encompassed, and it also contained compassion and love and empathy that the two felt for one another and the beings around them. With all the Knights of Ren and Sovereign Protectors dead, Solo joined Rey, with him holding the Skywalker lightsaber and Rey bearing the lightsaber of Leia Organa, and dropped into a fighting stance against the Phantom Emperor, who decreed that as long as they would stand together, they would perish together for their insolence and insignificance for his plans, before raising his decaying hands and impaling them with the Force, pulling the two helpless warriors towards him, overriding their forced barriers. However, as an unforeseen consequence, their combined life force began to heal the clone vessel that was serving Sidious as his temporary new body. His hands stitched themselves back together, and his bones regrew. His pale flesh closed over them, with his nails regrowing. Sidious realized at once what was before him: a dyad in the Force, a prophesied phenomenon stronger than life itself, and one that had not been seen for many generations. He himself had tried to forge one with his apprentice, Darth Vader, but it proved insufficient for his plan. And similar, Darth Plagueis, the master of Palpatine that taught him in the ways of the dark side, and the manipulator of the midichlorians, tried to forge one with the Phantom Emperor in the case that he ever died. Realizing their power would allow him to fully return to strength and life, Sidious used the Force to drain the life essence of both Force users in order to restore himself to full strength. Using this ability was very akin to the ability that Darth Nihilus in Legends continuity utilized, Force Drain, being the master of this ability. Their combined life force healed him as triumphant thoughts invaded his mind. Sidious harnessed the power of both the dark side of the Force and all the Sith who preceded him. Vitiate, Ragnos, Vader, and Plagueis all lived in him now, continuing to pull more life energy from the dyad, as if he was drawing on a flowing river of light, so only he, the one true Emperor of the Galaxy and the Sith, would be restored. With his body and mobility fully restored, and his powers amplified beyond measure, becoming possibly the most powerful Sith at that point, and possibly in all of Star Wars lore. The Dark Lord released himself from the Omen harness that he had required to sustain his life on Exegol for the last 30 years, and declared himself the immortal Emperor of the Sith before his Sith loyalists and cultists, who praised their master's return. No longer needing his granddaughter, Sidious declared himself the Emperor once more, having no further use of Solo and exclaiming revenge for his first death. The Emperor flung him, using his mastery of telekinesis, into a vast and dark pit as reinforcements brought by Lando Calrissian arrived to aid the Resistance in the Battle of Exegol. Intending to dispose of the Resistance as well, with his powers now stronger than ever before, even in Legends continuity, the Emperor claimed that nothing would stop the resurgence and return of the Sith Empire, before he shot an immense amount of Force lightning into the atmosphere of Exegol, thereby disabling every Resistance transport for the time being. His attention soon redirected to the returned Rey, who was now empowered by the ghosts and spirits of the past Jedi. Sidious then unleashed a barrage of Force lightning on his granddaughter, proclaiming that her death would mark the final word in the story of the rebellion, which she blocked with the lightsaber of Leia Organa, struggling against his immense power. Sidious unleashed all the power of the Sith against Rey, and declared that her death would mark the end of the rebellion, and all rebellion against his power and infinite might in the dark side. The Emperor, unfazed by Rey's defiance, and the fact that Rey was lasting a lot longer than she should have against his immensely destructive Force lightning. However, he doubled his essence and doubled his intensity of his Force lightning to kill and utterly dominate Rey. But Rey, calling upon the power of the Jedi of the past, including Yoda, Luke Skywalker, Mara Jade, and Yaddle, ignited the Skywalker lightsaber, one of the most historical and lore-centric relics in all of Star Wars lore, and as well as Organa's, and deflected the Force lightning back onto the Emperor, while declaring herself as all the Jedi embodied into one being. Rey destroyed Darth Sidious, rebounding the Force lightning back onto his new form, his flesh peeling away, making it appear like oil, and his suit is deteriorating, burning at the strength of his own power, with the aid of the Jedi who came before, preventing the ultimate return of the Sith. As a result, Darth Sidious, the former senator of Naboo, the last supreme chancellor of the Galactic Republic, God Emperor of the Galaxy, the Phantom Menace, and the final Dark Lord of the Sith in Star Wars, was destroyed after well over a century by his very own power in the dark side once and for all, vaporizing his entire body and releasing a great force wave that decimated the entire Sith Citadel, the Sith throne, along with killing all of the Sith Eternal loyalists, cultists, and dark side acolytes that had prayed to Sidious for so many years. Sidious was finally gone, vanquished both in body and soul. With the demise of Sidious and the destruction of his cult, the rebirth of the Sith and the establishment of the new Sith Empire was prevented for all time. Well, friends, that was all the actions Darth Sidious took during the events of the sequel trilogy. I hope you are enjoying the daily Sith and Star Wars lore, and I hope that you enjoy the Emperor Palpatine videos that we are regularly updating. Emperor Palpatine is unquestionably one of the most powerful and intriguing characters in all of fiction, and I should hope to cover him in a later video more in depth. That'll be all, acolytes, and I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.